How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. As today, we will be talking about and breaking down how the Chiefs wide receiving room has looked thus far through 4 weeks of the campaign. Now, this is a wide receiving room that has just gotten much needed reassurance in the form of Xavier Worthy returning from his injury suffered in week 1, having a really big game against the Baltimore Ravens on both the receiving side of the ball and the rushing side of the ball. He was just a game changer immediately for Kansas City, and it helped them propel to a victory against the Baltimore Ravens. But going into their week 5 matchup on Monday Night Football against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the wide receiving room needs kind of a breakdown of how this is ran, who's a big star thus far, who needs to step up. And I thought, what other way to do it than break it down on the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. So without further ado, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiving room and areas that they have succeeded in and areas that they need to kind of step up in, if you will. Starting with the most important wide receiver this season thus far, in my opinion, it has been veteran Hollywood Brown. As soon as Xavier Worthy went down, a lot of questions came into play. Well, how long was he going to be out for? Is it going to require surgery? All of these questions had to have been answered relatively quick, but a guy who did not panic, in fact, a guy who stepped up, is Hollywood Brown. Thus far, through 4 games this season, he leads the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiving core with 22 receptions and 209 receiving yards. While he hasn't been a player with the most explosiveness in the football, he has brought in 10 first downs for the Kansas City Chiefs. A veteran that needed to step up did. Hollywood Brown is also a guy that has been looking to prove himself this season, ladies and gentlemen. Coming off of a season where he was injured, it is important to him, and you could tell he was grateful for the opportunity that the Kansas City Chiefs gave him in returning to Arrowhead Stadium to call his home for the next season. It has been a season thus far that has been much rejuvenated that we've seen from Hollywood Brown over the last 2 years. While you can't necessarily count all of the things that happened last season, though he wasn't a big portion of the wide receiving room since he returned so late, he's made his impact very quickly thus far in a Chiefs uniform in 2025. Travis Kelce is another guy that has been a guy who stepped up for Kansas City. However, his first 2 games out of the gates for this season were a tad slow. Perhaps coming off of the best game he's had in a second with 5 receptions and 5 targets against the Baltimore Ravens, Travis Kelce has been a reliable receiving option, a tight end, though he has had his struggles here and there, whether that be a fumble or a dropped pass, a miscommunication with Andy Reid on the sideline. Travis Kelce has a lot of eyes on him this season. Whether or not this is his last season still remains to be a mystery, but from what we've seen thus far, he is still a reliable option. Not the primary option for quarterback Patrick Mahomes, but he is a reliable option. He can still find a way to get open as he always has in the past, and he's been able to be a guy to step up when needed. Speaking of a guy who stepped up when needed, Tyquan Thornton, a guy who has already surpassed his career total touchdown mark in 4 games with the Kansas City Chiefs. Tyquan Thornton has been the Chiefs' primary wide receiving threat deep. He has speed on his side, though his size isn't on his side. He has the ability to get up, grab that football. He's got speed. He's able to be used in both the rushing attack if they choose to do that with his speed. I like what we've seen thus far from Tyquan Thornton. I would even argue that other than Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton has carried this Kansas City Chiefs wide receiving room. He has had 4 big plays of 20 receiving yards or more, 7 first downs, 21 yards after catch. He is just an explosive unit out there. He's a guy that they have really needed to step up, and he has. I'm excited to see what he does against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football. Additionally, a guy who's also been a little underrated thus far in the Chiefs wide receiving room for what he has been able to do has been Juju Smith-Schuster, another guy who's not going to give you a lot of big plays, meaning 20 or more yards. He is a guy that is reliable, though. Another veteran that Patrick Mahomes has played with before. While these young guys are out have been out rather, of Xavier Worthy, and they're still awaiting the return of Rashee Rice, you've had to lean on some veterans. Juju Smith-Schuster, his role, though some may thought that he was the odd man out, he has proved to be a pivotal piece of this wide receiving core. Xavier Worthy in his first game played back from the injury has been very, very good. I'm looking to see him have more success in the receiving game moving forward, especially now, since while Rashee Rice is out, Xavier Worthy is your primary wide receiving option for Patrick Mahomes. However, there are some guys that haven't been utilized much to my liking thus far, and that has been specifically Noah Gray. I think that if there is a pivotal point that the Chiefs need to make at some point this season, whether or not Travis Kelce isn't producing or not, you have to start giving Noah Gray some chances to step up. Thus far this season, he's only had 6 receptions and 13 targets and 22 receiving yards. No big plays. He's got 1 first down. He's just kind of been a guy that I think people have forgotten about, and that's what still makes him dangerous. I would like to see him have a big second half of the year or as we get into the middle point. But all in all, none of this could be ever done without quarterback Patrick Mahomes. He has utilized his receiving core wonderfully thus far, coming off of a game where he just passed for 4 touchdowns, a feat that he had to do with 4 different wide receivers. Patrick Mahomes, man, he's so good. He's a breath of fresh air in a time where Kansas City needed him to step up. All in all, the wide receiving core for the Kansas City Chiefs, while they had a slow, rocky start out of the gates, I would like to see and have confidence in them moving forward. You get Rashee Rice back in week 7. I think with a healthy wide receiving room, and as long as everyone stays consistent, this could be a top 10 wide receiving core in the National Football League. Not saying that just for biasy. I think that it's facts from thus far from what we've seen. Put a talented group of wide receivers with one of, if not the best quarterback in football. That's how you win football games. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, be sure you follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs while we get closer to week 5 as well as the regular season. You're also not going to want to miss tomorrow's episode. We've got a special guest that needs no introduction. Also, be sure you follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI. Everything gets posted there, whether that be columns, opinions, articles, podcasts, videos, post-game, pre-game, all of it. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is a place to get your Kansas City Chiefs news. As always, ladies and gentlemen, be kind to one another, and I'll see you tomorrow with a special guest.